Committee of March 16th to order. And the first item on the agenda is review of our sales tax, which this is exciting to review it.
Yeah, I'm going to pull that up real quick.
While you're pulling that up, I don't know if you pay attention to the Puget Sound forecasters. It's a group of folks that kind of predict the economy for Puget Sound.
Yeah.
And they have estimated for Kitsap County in particular for 2021 to see about a 15% increase in sales tax for the year.
Wow.
Wow.
1.5, John?
1.5.
1.5.
That's a ferry boat and a park and ride.
Well, I suppose.
No, not quite a ferry boat, but.
Well, 15% is their prediction. I guess they must have been looking at our sales tax collections year to date.
Well, that's for Kitsap County. Now, based on what I can see, Port Orchard is fairly unique in the county. So we have to, we can look at, well, what I'm looking at, a 17.8% year over year increase.
Yeah, for the month of February. So year to date, we are 16%. Yep, over 19.
16.07, yeah.
Yeah. So sales tax is doing great for us, which is really encouraging to start the year off really strong. Both months, January and February, significantly over with real growth, 14 to 17% for 14% in January, 17% in February. So year to date, 16% over our budgeted amount for the first 2 months. We're about 25% over what we would have budgeted for the first 2 months. So sales tax
it's incredible.
Incredibly strong.
Yeah. And REIT is doing pretty well also.
Yeah, REIT, again, we looked at for February, we collected $220,000 of REIT revenue, which the percentages kind of lose their meaning at some point. And I think for this month, they lost their meaning because we had a year-over-year change about $150,000 more than we collected in February. So we did look into the real estate data and did identify two large sales of property amount to $19 million and $13 million. So roughly $32 million of real estate transactions from the Stetson Heights property accounted for about $160,000 of that $220,000. So without that transaction, still we would have been, $60,000 for the month of February. Still solid numbers, but that one real estate transaction really bumped us up very strong for February.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is all very positive news.
There's a group of lots in the McCormick North and the Stetson Heights development transaction, which I shared with you guys.
Right. Okay.
So first 2 months doing really well on our revenue side. I'm going to flip to our fund balance chart. Again, this was in your monthly report that we sent out yesterday. So hopefully you had a chance to read that over. Currently, all our fund balances are very strong. Current expense fund has an ending balance of $7.3 million to close the month of February. Our street fund is also equally strong at $1.4 million to close. So those are the two encouraging funds that I always monitor. And then we come down to our operations for water capital, sewer, as well as storm, all with strong fund balances as we start off our new biennium. Now, I do know that when we developed the budget, a significant portion of the fund balance was budgeted to be expended. So when we balanced the budget, a significant portion of our carry forward fund balance was going to be used for expenses during the biennium. So I would expect to see those fund balances come down as we budgeted. But so far, real strong, all good stuff from a fund balance perspective.
Yeah. No, it looks very, very good.
The third item on the agenda we had was the monthly budgeted report. And I don't know if you guys had any questions on that, but one thing I did want to pull up for us is our impact fee rec reserve spreadsheet that we talk about generally every quarter, every couple months we come back to. Revenues for February on all these fronts, again, seem to be doing very well. What we use this spreadsheet for is to help us plan and anticipate expenses for certain projects, helps us keep track of revenue coming in to see that we're on track to meet those expenses. And so when we look at this spreadsheet, a couple areas that we just want to point out, McCormick Transportation Impact Fee will no longer be recorded in its own fund. It's going to be commingled starting next month into the general city's transportation fee as a part of the McCormick agreement. But we do illustrate it on this spreadsheet to show what we have received through February of 2021. Going forward, there will not be additional revenue receipted into this column. In fact, it'll all be receipted into the column E, transportation impact fee on the far right there.
So the transportation shows that we've received 38,000 so far.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
38,000 in revenue. We have $500,000 actually in the budget for expenses. That's for that Bethel 2.04 project. And then the other 800,000 which we've obligated is also for that project. So we still have a target of $317,000 needed to be collected to fully fund that project this biennium between the two funds. And so we're early in the biennium, so we'll just continue to monitor that progress. I wanted to point out here in column I did add a column here for Blueberry Bethel Fund. This is the money that the city received in lieu of putting in a stoplight. And this money is restricted for that specific purpose that we received it under. So once we move forward as a city with those projects, we'll spend that money.
So going back to the transportation impact, you got 38,000 through February. Based on what we've heard from DCD, we could safely assume that that rate will continue for a while at least.
John, what we at the Transportation Committee last month, Nick did a projection for us of projected transportation impact fee monies. So perhaps, I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me, perhaps we can get him to forward that to the Finance Committee.
Well, I appreciate what Noah is suggesting here is that this is reality and what Nick is doing is a projection. And I'd like to see the projection, absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just, yeah, it was just informational.
Yeah, no, I think that would be great.
Yeah, we can certainly bring that back next month and also compare with the new month of data, see how we're trending along.
Great.
What I enjoy with this particular chart is not only what we've expended, but what we've obligated so that we don't spend it more than once.
Times, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Noah, how does that 38,000 compare to what we expected to get in budget? You know?
I think that is on the report.
Have you done an expectation based on month or annual?
When we set the budget for the impact fees, we don't take at least we didn't this go around. Now we could take a different approach going forward because there were so many balls up in the air as far as variables, as far as what projects we were looking at. We didn't do a intense look at doing a forecast for the impact fees the way we did with the sewer connection fees and the water connection fees, because we were actually relying upon those revenues to fund projects.
Right.
When we were looking at the impact fees, we weren't necessarily relying on them wholly to fund the project. We were going to rely on fund balance, and then as the projects that we had identified for transportation and REIT kind of got completed, we'd revisit where we were at with our ending fund balance and our revenues to see if there were additional projects we could add to the list. But when we took a look at the list, we already had enough projects from a human resource perspective that adding more projects didn't seem feasible.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I'm pretty sure we'll be over our budget within a month or two more from what we actually projected.
Okay, thank you.
So that takes us through the whole financial reporting section. I did ask Steve Havert to come talk about IT and G12, a phone system contract that the council will be seeing coming forward on the 23rd. So Steve, if you would mind, kind of describing what that is and why we're bringing it forward.
Okay, so one of the challenges with COVID was teleworking and people starting to work from home. And that presented a problem in terms of how to reach them when they were at home and maybe didn't have a city cell phone. So I started thinking about, okay, how do we solve this problem? And I knew about what's called hosted VoIP, which stands for voice over IP. So it's an internet-based phone system. And that's pretty much the way a lot of people, companies and organizations are going. It's just the technology is pretty mature. It's been around for probably close to 15, 20 years. So it's gotten to the point where it's really stable. I've been involved with it for a long time and kind of from the beginning. So I've seen it grow. And then that kind of dovetailed with our existing phone system, which is a PBX, internal piece of equipment, and then of course all the phones with limit. It's got good capabilities, but we've been using it for quite a long time, and I think it's pretty much used its. We've received its value over the years, and it's kind of time to move on. So, so anyway, we did try a couple of different systems. We have a relationship with Verizon. They supply our cell phones, and they had an offering which sounded pretty good. Was called One Talk. So we did a pilot project with that, and I'm sure Noah and Rob can, yeah. We gave it a shot, but it just really wasn't tenable. Had too many problems. I think it's a relatively new product for Verizon. I'm guessing they bought it from somebody. So we said, okay, well, that's no good. So then I started looking at other opportunities and discovered through our current phone system vendor that they have an arrangement with a company. They're a reseller, I guess you'd say, called G12. They're based in somewhere in Washington, can't remember the city. So I talked with one of the owners of that, and it sounded like a pretty good deal. And I've talked a couple of other cities, municipalities in Washington, and they're pretty happy with them. So I think we decided let's do a pilot with them, and we had a few hiccups, but by and large, I'd say it's working pretty well. And we put an ad in the paper to make sure that we're dotting the I's and crossing the T's as far as procurement policy goes. And we received 2 other bids and looked at those. One was just not even, they didn't even address the requirements that we put out there. And the other one did, but it was higher priced. So this G12, it was essentially the winner of all this research. And so we'd like to move forward with that, convert everybody over to the G12 system. This would allow people to basically have a desk phone at their house, or they could use their cell phone as their main phone. So when somebody calls into the whatever direct dial number they call into Public Works and it could transfer to the phone in their house if they're teleworking. So it's got some very nice features in terms of flexibility. And one of the, I think, benefits of having gone through this whole process was that we addressed some, what do you call call trees, if you will, recordings, phone numbers that have not been used for quite a while and were obsolete. So this has kind of allowed us to, eliminate some unneeded numbers, kind of change our call flow a little bit, so it'll be a little more streamlined. And so I think that's a good thing to have gone through that and kind of exercise to decide what really we don't need anymore. So I'm trying to think, that's pretty much it, unless there's questions.
So Steve, could you, right now we've got a piece of hardware we own that we would need to replace.
Right.
And if I remember correctly, it was about a $60,000 piece of hardware. In this model, we're not going to buy hardware. It's cloud-based and it's a monthly service. So what's the cost on that monthly service?
Hopefully Noah has that handy. Being the finance guy, I don't remember off the top of my head. Noah, do you have it?
Give me 15 seconds.
Yeah.
Is there a setup fee to this as well? I mean, what are we paying for?
Well, so we're basically paying for a monthly fee for the number of users that we have. They charge by the user instead of, the phone number or the piece of equipment. And then there is a cost to the phones for those people who will want a desk phone. Not everybody necessarily needs one, because there's an app that works on their mobile device. They can just use that as their main phone. In addition to being the cell phone, it would also be their desk phone. So not everybody will need a desk phone, but there is a cost to those. We can either purchase those or just rent them. And I don't know that we've made that decision.
Well, so what we're going to bring forward is a 3-year contract. The total value of that, the total cost of that contract is $42,000. So then we asked how much was the monthly cost. It's about $1,200 per month. And that $42,000 does include the $5,000 of us renting those phones. So we've kind of gone back and forth on the business case of whether it makes sense just to rent these for the minimal amount a month, or actually buy the phones themselves outright for the $150 to $200 per phone. We kind of go back and forth. It's about 2.5-year payback if you buy them versus rent. But our concern would be that if the phone breaks, if something happens to the hardware, you have to buy new hardware. So that kind of sets you back. Where the rental, they'll keep the phones upgraded, the equipment solid, you send it back in if it's broken, and it's a minimal cost in the overall plan.
I assume that it, not to want to get into the weeds, but it provides all of the features that you can call forward or conference call or any of those things.
Yes, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
It's and it's free long distance and domestic long distance. It's all included. We'll have, so if we have recordings like for after hours calls, those will be professionally recorded. And that kind of takes the pressure off of anybody having to do that, within the city. And it's got all the basic, bells and whistles that a phone system would have. It's just basically it's cloud-based rather than being on-premise equipment.
It doesn't replace the cell phones that our Public Works Department carries with them.
That's correct.
That's the question.
Right. No, it does not replace them. Right. Yeah.
So, and many of us with these Surfaces now, we can there's an option too. You can utilize your Surface as your telephone too with a headset. So it gives us a lot of different flexibility, whether it's, an app to your cell phone through your Surface, or, and those folks that are more receptionist type folks are going to need, a physical telephone, right, and be more conventional than I need to be.
I assume that it has things like a call forward busy or voicemail for each line, or I guess call forward busy is a good question. So if I call the mayor and he's on his phone, will it go to a recording or will it go to Brandy or somebody?
Well, all that's customizable. And there's a web interface, and each user can go in and sort of customize, their own setup. So if you've got a desk phone and a cell phone, and you want the call to go to your desk phone first and ring 5 times and then go to your cell phone, you can set that up. The same thing with, voicemail. Now with the voicemail, it'll email you the recording of the voicemail, but it'll also, if you turn it on, transcribe that And in the email, you'll be able to read what the voicemail that the person left. Obviously, it's subject to the quality of that sound in there. But I've said, I would say it's probably about 80% accurate. Most of the time I can get the gist of, what the person was saying, and I have a pretty good idea whether it's something I need to respond to or not.
Yeah. Sounds good. So you're talking basically 14 grand a year for all the city needs, and it's expandable, I'm assuming. So you can add more.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So John, when I was having the 7025 number that I've been calling you guys on is the number that I've been piloting these two programs. So, and the Verizon product, One Talk, was when I was having all those dropped calls.
Mm-hmm.
And then here the last couple of months, when you've been calling me and it goes to my voicemail, it's this G12 system, because I've been one of the ones piloting it. So we've been using it, and it seems to work fairly well.
Well, I'm assuming that it's going cellular at some point. You're not plugging your cell phone into your computer, so.
Correct.
Well, if you've got Wi-Fi, then obviously it's using the Wi-Fi. Right, but yeah, right. Exactly.
Yep.
If you're on the road and your phone rings, it's going to extension cord or cell phone, one of the two.
Right. Right.
Sounds good to me. Beck, do you have any other questions?
No.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Good luck.
Thank you. Yes. The transition is always fun.
Yeah, exactly. And technology.
Yep. Okay. Thank you very much.
So, Noah, you're bringing that to the full council, obviously.
Yeah. So now we've gone through the selection process, and we'll bring that to the council next Tuesday for adoption.
Great. Okay. Court security, is Chief Brown with us, or I didn't?
Yep, I'm right here. I'm just
there. You are.
Hi. Yeah. So I just wanted to give you guys kind of a high level idea of what we're working on. So, the courts are trying to figure out what it's going to look like when they come back. There will be obviously some in-person court, and we need to be able to find a way to keep people safe on the third floor. We are working on some negotiations with the Guild to provide some security up there. The reality is that it's such a small amount of time that trying to hire an outside contractors proved a little bit difficult. So we just wanted to let you guys know that we are working on it, and it's likely be an MOU that comes through with the Guild.
So just to give you guys some history, if you don't recall, we used to have an employee. That employee left us. Then COVID came along, and we thought we were in negotiations with the county, and that was the plan when we adopted this budget, that we would contract with the county the way Bremerton has done. And the county, their program is staffed by primarily a bunch of retired police officers and deputy sheriffs, and many of them aren't comfortable in the current work environment, working in that way. And so the county has pulled the plug on their program other than their own staffing needs. And so as a result, the chief has reached out. So then we went out to private companies, and nobody has any, because of how few the hours are for in our court, nobody has any desire to provide that. So we're working on a flat rate contract with the Guild that we hope to bring forward in the next month or two and have in place prior to opening City Hall.
So what does that mean? We're going to hire another body, or? No,
it'll be like working the football game, or it's extra pay, but it won't be overtime.
Yeah. And the reason that we would do that is so that if we have that contract with the courts, should no one sign up for that, because again, it's only maybe 2 to 3 hours a week. If no one signs up, that contract would provide the ability to mandate somebody do that, because there's an agreement with the Guild that they will staff that.
Okay, so it's not going to take patrolmen off the street. It's going to be other duties as assigned.
Yes. Well, no. So no, it's because
additional hours.
Yeah, it's not a function of the police department. So so essentially it is exactly as the mayor said. We have a contract with South Kitsap High School to provide armed police officers as security for football games. So this would be a contract with the court to provide an armed peace officer at the court when they are an in-person session.
I'm confused. The armed police officer would be one of our policemen.
Yes.
Right. Off-duty police officer working and being compensated additional dollars from the money that we've budgeted for the court for court security.
So this is not going to be part of their normal paycheck. This would be a check in addition, theoretically.
It would get added to their paycheck, but it would be a different pot of dollars it's coming from versus the police department's dollars. That payroll will handle that. It'll be in their paycheck.
Sounds a little confusing, but no, if you can figure it out and get it by the auditors, I guess sounds good to me. I mean, it seems a little interesting how you can compensate one of your employees for additional work that's outside of the normal without calling it overtime. I appreciate there's a labor agreement.
The reason it's not going to be overtime is because of the new shift, how we redone the work shift. We still have to comply with all the labor laws, John, but it shouldn't be overtime hours because of the way the new shifts, the new shift, how we've redone the shifts.
No, I appreciate that. It's more of dealing with compensation for your employees and how you play with that. It's the color of the money, I guess, but that's Noah is going to have to defend us on that one. So
yeah, I guess I'm going to push it back one more. I'm going to say I hope Debbie and Charlie, our HR, have reviewed this proposal because I understand what John's saying because I hadn't quite thought that through, that it's the same city paying the same employee. So I guess we want to make sure that Debbie and legal counsel have weighed in on that.
Yeah.
Whether
So
it
Charlie
comes
and
out
I
of the court budget or our budget, it's the city's dollar. So
yeah.
Charlie and I have been working on that issue, Ms. Clausen. So part of the reason why it's because we're providing a service for another department. One of the things that the mayor and I talked about, the difficulties that we have with staffing a position such as this, is that what the city and what the court wants in a part-time employee like that, we would be required to send them to the basic law enforcement academy or the corrections academy. And if I was to do so for an employee that would be part-time, as soon as we get them trained, they will leave. And it will
I understand that the challenge that you guys are faced with, but I'm also somewhat familiar with labor law and how you can do that. And, I would suggest, Rob, don't we have a contract with Summit?
Yeah, we do.
Charlie talked with Summit just to make sure that we're clean on all that.
Yeah. And there are other cities that do the same thing or a similar thing. So yeah, we'll have it cleaned up for you, but just wanted to give you a heads up.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. It's creative as long as we can get away with it.
Yeah. Just making you aware that we're entering into negotiations with the guild, and this is our idea on how to solve this challenge.
That might be the saving grace, is having a contract, a collective bargaining agreement. But generally, you've got L&I and everybody else that's going to be involved in this discussion. That's why I say just, if Charlie talks with Summit, then wonderful. It's a great idea. Okay. Any other questions? Beck, do you have any questions on that?
Nope. My questions are basically yours. So.
Yeah, I've been through this in things like, well, you can't really volunteer to do your job that you normally do. I mean, there's all kinds of nuances. So biweekly accrual, Noah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to give you guys an update. We have already been doing biweekly accrual with the guild. We negotiated this when they do their shift schedule. Essentially, what we're going to bring forward to the council through an MOU with the Teamsters and a modification to our personnel policies that rather than accrue on at the end of each month, we're going to accrue live. So every pay period, we're going to accrue their vacation leave and sick leave. It'll be prorated for that 2-week period, but it means that employees will have access to their vacation leave as they accrue it. And we won't have to wait till the end of the month, then accrue back for a full month. So it'll be more live accruals, more live deductions. On the payroll side, it's also going to help to balance out the paychecks. So right now we kind of have one large paycheck and one smaller paycheck. It's going to even out the paychecks by bi-weekly period. So I just want to give you guys a head up that we'll be bringing this language proposal forward. We've touched base with the Teamsters in the past and they were supportive of this. I think it's a win for everybody. The employees win and the city wins. And we're going to gain some efficiencies on the payroll side as well.
So their accrual rate is going to be more time to the payroll period.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that we are not doing that already. Doing it monthly, I would think would be burdensome.
I agree.
It's an outdated practice that we haven't changed yet.
Yeah. And as you know, it takes time to work through the different groups to get them comfortable and then change contracts. And so our first group was with the guild and it's been going really well. We have had no complaints and the Teamsters are excited about it. And I think the non-reps will enjoy it as well. So I think it's a good improvement.
Hope so.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So we had a short agenda and I think the mayor had a couple of items for the good of the order.
And it's just more getting them on the record. So I've touched base with some folks about this, already on telephone calls. And so, with the federal dollars that just came in the Relief Act, it appears that the city could be in line to get about $3.2 million. It'll funnel through the State Department of Commerce. We still don't know all the rules and everything, but we're going to have some pretty quick deadlines here in the next couple of weeks to get to pick our project and we'll kind of set the course for that. So we won't have all the information we would like to have before we pick a project, but there are 3 ways we could spend this $3.2 million. One is if we had lost revenue due to COVID, which we don't, so we're not eligible there. Another is COVID expenses, which we don't have $3 million of the COVID expenses that we could justify. And the last path we could spend these dollars from this relief is on infrastructure, in particular sewer, water, or broadband. And we definitely have sewer and water needs. And we have 2 projects that likely will go to construction next year, the Marina Pump Station and Well 11. And both of them are proposed to be done with borrowings, about a $12 million borrowing for the Marina Pump Station, about a $7 million borrowing for the well. I think our bigger need is in the water side of the house than the sewer side of the house. Katie Isaacson's contract to start doing the analysis of that won't be awarded till next week. So we won't have the data to support my gut feeling, but knowing that we've, built the 2 big lift stations in McCormick, and really the big capital project out there is the Marina Pump Station. And we have an idea how we can fund that and construct that. We have 3 well projects though, and each one of them is $7 or $8 million. And we haven't really solved any of the funding needs for any of those projects. So I think our best bet is to put our application forward for well 11 when that time comes here in the next week or 2. And I just wanted to
Mayor, are those competitive dollars?
They're not.
They're not. Okay.
They're not. So we just have to spend them how we said we would, and we'll have a short window to spend them in. We're doing this likely next year. Had a number of meetings with AWC and Derek Kilmer over the last couple of weeks. They're kind of building the airplane as they're flying it is the analogy that was used yesterday. So So we think this is going to work this way, but we don't know yet. The other piece is there's going to be some appropriations coming. In particular, Derek is going to get 10 of them, and they will be competitive, unlike the other. And I think we could be in line for about $1 million. And these competitive awards will need to be for projects that have broad community support. And the two things that come to mind are the pathway and the community center. And we're having some challenges there was right-of-way acquisitions for the pathway. I'm concerned that if we brought the pathway forward, as we went through the competitive process, that some folks in our community might write letters persuading our congressman not to pick a different project. And I think that the community center is broadly supported. We've got a lot of unanswered questions, I know, and how to fund it and how to build it. But adding $1 million or so to the bucket of dollars we have, I think could be our best project to bring forward for those appropriations. And once again, won't know until we get an award whether or not we succeeded in that competitive process. So those are my thoughts.
I know that the funding from Congressman Kilmer is pretty time sensitive, but the other money that we're going to receive, the $3 million, 3+, what's the timeline on that? Why is that such a big rush? Other than we have to spend it in a year? Yeah,
I'm just being told that it's going to come at us pretty quickly.
Yeah, the money's going to come pretty fast, but do we have to decide right now? And the only reason I ask is this something that do we have time to bring it to the retreat and talk about it as a group?
Maybe I don't know. We've just gotten it just got passed this last week, and it was just shared with us the dollar amount and that this process would move very quickly. So I'm just trying to be as transparent and open about what I think we should do. And as I get firm deadlines, which I don't have, I'll share them, but I just want to be able to make sure that we get our application in and don't miss out on this $3 million.
Right. No, bottom line is we don't want to miss an opportunity, that's for sure. But if there's time available, and I know, like I said, Derek's is pretty quick, but if we have the time, I think it would be valuable to just as a group that we can all sit down and understand.
I can add that to the retreat agenda because we've got those on my presentation, so we can add that as a discussion item. The prioritization of the federal award. That's good. Call.
And just what are the options available for use? Not that I'm opposing water, but I know you and I have had a discussion about broadband. So okay.
I just know that our utilities and this can positively impact our ratepayers if by reducing the borrowing amount on either one of those projects.
I completely understand, but it's also, we have a method for which we can make the payments where something else we may not. And I don't want it. I think it's something that we need to have a discussion on is all, Rob. So.
Okay. If time allows us, I'll get it on the retreat. If I get a hard deadline, I'll continue to communicate.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all I had.
Anything else that's not on the agenda or for the good of the order? All right. Well, we've got our next meeting scheduled for next month. So I think we're ready to adjourn unless there's anything I'm missing.
Thank you.
Doesn't look like it. So we'll see you all in short order here.
Yep.
All right.
Less than an hour.
Bye.